Welcome to Pay-to-Play Impressions for the Settlers 3 Gold Edition. This is the History Edition that's available for Uplay and also available on Uplay Plus. The usual Settlers 3 Gold Edition I know is available on GOG, or you can buy it there. So now this the History Edition operates in a borderless window mode. So it's a full screen borderless window that has a bit of an issue. I'll talk about it later. So the reason it is a pay-to-play impression is because I decided not to finish the game. I did finish the Roman campaign. In the base game also has the Asian and the Egyptian campaign, as well as there's a Mission City campaigns that there's also again 3 campaigns for Asians, the Romans, and the Egyptians. And then there's an Amazon campaign which also has Amazon and the other what's called the other campaign basically. Additionally, you can also have single player scenarios here, different maps, so you can choose which ones you want. Play it in a single player, there's a game tap and things like that. I haven't tried it myself, but that's available. There's also multiplayer available, and I believe Uplay actually has multiplayer supported. As far as I know, the Classic Settlers 3 Gold Edition has a multiplayer for Game Ranger service available. And just, I guess, to finish it off, there's also this button called campaign, and it's normal or easy, the settings that you can put in here. Easy will make the game easier, the normal will make the game harder. There's also a tutorial which is very basic and does not answer all the questions you need actually to complete the campaign. I had to go in and read the manual in order to get things, in order to understand how to do things. So let me show you the game. I'm just going to jump into, let's do the first campaign, the first scenario in the Roman campaign. I disabled the audio, so there's a narration available for each mission, and there's also a storyline in terms of the idea that you are chosen by the god Jupiter for the Romans, and there's other gods for each other ones, for each of the other different civilizations, to kind of build you up your civilization as an example, and to show that your civilization is superior to other ones, and that's basically kind of tasked by the gods to do, by Jupiter to do so for other civilizations. It's other gods who do pretty much the same thing. So I turned off the audio because I kind of got tired of getting copyright claims on certain audio that appear in the different games. It's starting to fight them, and in the end, the audio does not it's nothing. You don't lose anything here in this when it comes to audio in this game. So I'm just gonna go without it. So here it is. You will start out scenarios at different points. Sometimes it'll be like this, where it's just one tower and resources and people. Sometimes you're gonna have something pre-built, like in this case. Also have 2 locations, right? So this is one of those island maps. There's also the maps which do not have islands but just have a big giant landmass available. So that's the other one. So the basics of the game are, as you can see, some of the stuff already happening is that my guys already started to procure resources, but it is what the basics are, that you have to go in and you have to build up your resource extraction. It's kind of industry. So we're gonna build a few woodcutter huts here and there. Right there, we're gonna add another one for the stone cutters, so that we can have here something. And as when I'm pressing them put down, this guys here will automatically go towards the proper locations, and they'll start working on it. So the first will they'll level the ground, then there's gonna be builders coming in that will build stuff. At the same time, you're gonna see other ones will pick up resources and move them towards appropriate locations, so that there the things will be built. Here you can see the resources needed to build something. They provide it, and so it's kind of in the way straightforward and clear. So it's I like that, and the idea that you don't have direct control over this guys is kind of being an element of Settlers games. The idea is that you more of a manager. The Settlers games are more management, but this one tries to be more of an RTS. It actually does say so too in the manual. It says it's an RTS game, so it's not exactly the same as the previous Settlers. So it is if we started building the resource extraction. Once we have the what's called construction side of the industry, right? For construction we need wood and stone. We can proceed to do some other things, and the other things is that we need other resources to build. Not to build, but to make tools, make weapons, and so on. And those resources have to come in from middle extraction points. So here we have coal mines, we have a few coal mines here, and then we also have a gold mine here. What we're missing is an iron mine. So let's say if I go in here, I press here, there's the people, I say occupations, and here this tells me what my regular workers are occupied as 20%, 25 to 25, right? So that's a distribution of them between builders, diggers, and carriers. And here there's a specialized job. So you can have geologists as a specialized job. You can have this kind of like an explorer, thief type of a job per person. Like here, this I have 3 of them the game gave me. I generally did not use them that much. And you can also have pioneers. It's this guy, so you land on the uninhabited islands to take control of those islands. And finally, you also have ability to turn pioneers into back to normal workers, so you can start building on those islands. So now I'm just going to create some geologists, and here they are. So I'm just going to send them over here. As you can see, I'm selecting them by dragging around them. I can select them this way also. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I can see them. So once I position them over what's supposed to be mineral deposits, where it's supposed to be, I can tell them to find resources, and they'll go to work, and they'll try to find resources, and they'll put up a sign saying which resource they found. Right there, it tells me that they found iron ore. So that's the first notice you get. The second notice would be is that they're gonna say, "Oh, this is a great spot for an iron mine because there's a lot of iron ore in the vicinity." So if I wait for that to happen, they should do it very soon. One of the things that you will have to do here in this game is wait. Sadly, that's a situation. Eventually, you kind of get used to waiting, but it's not great. There you go. We have says that this is a nice spot for an iron ore mine. So I go in, I say, okay, let's build an iron ore mine. Sadly, now that spot that they pointed out, it disappeared because it's now showing me the good locations to build the mine on. And I can't see anymore exact location that was shown to me. Yeah, there's a bit of that kind of problems in this game. So here we are beginning to build our mineral extractions. So this territory that I control, denoted by this red dots, is not sufficient. So how do I take more territory? Well, I need to build military buildings. The military buildings, when I build them, as soon as they are populated by soldiers, after that, the map will expand, and I'll be able to have a large territory. Now, military buildings can be garrisoned, so by default the garrison is by 1 person. But if I say I want the maximum garrison, then it will say, yeah, we have. If there's a soldiers in vicinity that are applicable, they'll come in and start garrisoning the location. So here it is. I press maximum garrison, and it's telling me that 1 is here and 2 are needed, and those 2 actually are 2 archers, but I don't have any archers, so nobody's gonna come in. But let's say if I would have picked this one, I think I do this, and 1 more soldier. See, it's walking in. So there's different soldiers. Gonna go minimum. He's gonna walk out. There are different soldiers, as I mentioned. So if I select them, I can see here. This is a swordsman. There's also a bowman, and there's a spearman. And then there's all those different jobs, including there's also priests. So once I start building the mines, you also need to create a food extraction, for food production industry, I would say. So one example is a fisherman's hat. Let's say I can put it up here, and then we also can do something. Let's do a grain farm. Let's say because that's another food. And when we're building, we can actually specify where certain production site will be producing things. So I can say that I want it in this area to be produced. Same thing, if I press on the stone cutter hat, I can tell them, specify where they should be getting stone from. Wood cutter hats, same story. I can tell them to get wood here, right? It is pretty useful because at the same time I can tell them to go half across the way the map, right? Well, sorry, I guess that's a bit too far. It's not half a way across the map, but I can point them to a pretty good distance away. Now you can't do that. You can't force them to go too far, but it's possible to do so. Now with mines, of course, that's not the case. It's a totally different story. So and the geologists will keep on working until they run out of spaces where they can put the signs up. So now you see my military building got populated and the map expanded. Now what I can do is that I don't need to keep the military building. I can just destroy the military building. That will give me my soldier back and will give me half of the resources back that I need, that I used to construct it. And so I can, once I said that, that's fine. I can go ahead and say, okay, build me another one here, right? And I keep on moving. And this strategy is actually pretty useful for military purposes, and I will explain that a bit later. But that I did not really keep a lot of military buildings on my own. So now we constructed this. We constructed the food extraction industry. Now grain is not enough. Of course, I need to go ahead and construct also, here it is, the mill. The mill will process the grain into flour, and then we need a bakery to bake bread. That's also not sufficient because bakery requires water, and we need, for that we build a waterworks, which is pretty much it's a well. But it has to be built next to a river because actually the game does not recognize oceans or lakes as a source of water. That's specified in tutorial. One of the things that is specified in tutorial. Now, additionally, also another source of food is something called a pig farm. I can build a pig farm, and let's say here, right? And I'm going to need a slaughterhouse to process output from the pig farm. Pig farm will take grain from the grain farm and to feed pigs, but it also needs the water from the waterworks. Now, one grain farm per mill per bakery is fine. You can have a bit more. Eventually I did do that more, but the one per one is fine. I would also need another, let's say, grain farm for purposes of supporting the production of a pig farm, because they need also grain, right? And if so, one thing that you're not gonna find in the tutorial that does not tell you is the fact that, well, yes, all the mines, here we can see they accept all three types of food: the bread, meat, and fish. They do not actually accept them equally. They do have preferences. So the gold miners prefer fish, I believe. Coal miners prefer bread, and iron miners prefer meat. Depending what kind of food production you have, the faster certain products will be produced. That gave me a lot of grief before I actually found that in the manual. So sadly, I had to read through the manual. That's you have no choice in this game. You have to read through the manual in order to get all the aspects, because the tutorial is very basic. It's not gonna tell you everything. So once you read that, you will realize, oh, that's why I'm not getting enough coal. I'm not getting enough iron because I never built the right food production site. Yeah. So what else? What else we can show you on this map? Let's see. Well, there's also this buildings, storage areas. Storage areas needed. So if let's say if I put one here, storage areas allow me to specify what could be stored in them. So because the reason is that as soon as outside your house here, like stonemason's or stonecutter's house or any other resource production site, you have a pile of resources appearing. Apparently that's 8 resources. Then the worker stops working. They decide that, well, I already have 8 resources outside, so I don't really need more to work more to get more. So if you want them to keep on working, and especially for such thing as gold, you do really want to keep them working, you need to store it here. And so when you click on the storage area, you can specify what could be stored in there. I only found a way how to turn on stuff to be stored there, not to turn off. Or so I can add things to be stored there, or I can just specify, let's say if I double click here, it will literally say gold only will be stored in here. Now gold is needed in this game because if I click on the military units, here's a strength at 39%. Strength increases the more gold you have. There's also a way to promote units, but that I believe increases their health, not their fighting capabilities. Now, once you have this going on, next steps, of course, once you have iron coming out, and to have iron coming out, actually you need to have a smelter. So you gotta build a smelter that will smelt iron, and then you're gonna need to build a toolsmith for purposes of actually turning iron into tools. I already have actually a smelter, so I can cancel it. Here's a smelter. So that will turn iron into tools that you need to to work. And here's another problem. The stop working button looks similar to buildings button, so every so often I found myself pressing the wrong button. So now I got a message that says that I don't have enough settlers to occupy buildings. To fix that, I need to build residences. Here, there's a small residence I can build. Medium or large takes, the bigger the residence takes longer to rebuild, the more resources you need. But this residence is what provides you with new settlers. So if I want more settlers, I just have to build another residence. As far as I know, you don't need to keep the residence after it produces all the settlers you need. Settlers are the basic workers. So once you have that, back to the whole production of tools is one thing. There's also a gold smelter needed to turn gold ore into gold bars, which count towards your fighting capabilities of your soldiers. And finally, if you want to build military units, you need a weaponsmith. I already have one, and then you're also gonna need a barracks. Let's say if I put a barracks here, right? In the weaponsmith here it is it's producing most of the things will require coal. So weaponsmith, gold smelter, iron smelter all require coal. So you need that to be the toolsmith also requires coal. So you need to have a pretty good coal industry going. So you need multiple coal mines. Now, once you have this, let's say, weaponsmith or toolsmith, you can press a button here. It controls the allocation of resources to the different productions. So, swords, bows, spears. I believe there might be some kind of a rock, paper, scissors type of system going on with some swords, spears, and bows. I never figured out because the way I conduct military affairs was very simple, and I'll talk about that. You also, here in tools, you also can allocate that yourself. Or you can just say, let's say I need so many pickaxes. I can, increase that, and what will happen is that, or you can do that with weapons as well. And what will happen is that the worker will produce that weapon on demand. It is kind of useful because sometimes you'll find a situation where you'll get a message saying that we don't have that kind of tool for this worker, and so it allows you to build that faster. Okay. So from this perspective, I think also I can talk about distribution of goods here. You can control that. I have not done much of that myself personally. I haven't really changed any of this stuff really when I was playing. So from this perspective, like I said, it's this is pretty much what the game is. I guess one thing I can tell you is here to demonstrate it easier is the selection process. So, you select the way you select an RTS as you drag, and there it is, you got a whole bunch of units. Great, right? Well, yes and no. Let's say if you want to find geologists here, and you decide, okay, well, I'm just going to select them. I'm sure I'm going to get some geologists. Well, if I do this, yeah, it is. I found some geologists too. I found two. Then, well, where's the third one? Where's the third one? I don't know. There's two. Let me expand my drug net. Oh, wait, no longer selecting geologists. I'm selecting soldiers. Soldiers take precedence over every other military unit when in selection. So, yeah, if you have a soldier and you try to select some other units, you can't. And you can't do a mixed selection, as I saw. I cannot have geologists and soldiers together. I cannot have priests and soldiers together. And that becomes annoying because that means, especially when you want to have priests moving together with your military, that means you have to select priests separately. Here it is. If like I said, I have explorer type of a thief type of unit. Yeah, I can't select them unless I carefully select only them. So what other big problem for me with this game is the speed, right? We've been talking for a while now, and slowly things are being built, but it's very slow. There's no way for me to do it any faster. Now I turned on the timer at the bottom of the screen, right there on the right bottom corner. You're gonna see a timer. So the game has a different way to handle speed. If you want to go faster, you just click, you press F9 key in the historical edition or F12 in the classical edition, and the game will skip 1 minute forward, right there. 1 minute forward, the game does internal calculations and says, what should have happened during that 1 minute? Well, this what should have happened. and then it goes forward with that. So there we are. We built a few things. It's not a substitute for production speed. Sorry, not production speed. It's not substitute for game speed. And why is it not? Because if I'm on the map with that my enemy is on the same map landmass as myself, in this case it's not. The enemy is not on the same landmass as myself. Therefore, I'm kind of safe on the islands because enemies don't seem to do, at least in the Roman campaign, never bother to use any way to attack the islands themselves. So they just defend their own. I'm pretty safe here. I can skip as much as I want to. But if you have enemy on the same landmass, you can skip and find out that your army has just been defeated, and some parts of your some parts of your base are being attacked. Yeah, and you totally missed that because you skipped forward, and in that 1 minute the enemy invaded. And because the game did calculations, your army responded by using artificial AI decision making, not your decision making. Everything did not go well. Yeah, and even if you save before you do that, well, you can save, you can't load. There's no fast load option. Yeah. So you have to quit and go in, and so that's a bit annoying. So there you go. That's, I would say, is the problem with the fast skipping. And so I quite often ended up watching them work. Yeah. Eventually, I think you get used to the speed, but I don't know. I'm not 100% used to the whole speed. Especially when you have to wait for the, let's say, certain units to be produced or something like that. That's always just horrible. So let me jump into another game, and we're gonna look there about things how they happen. So I'm gonna load in, and let's load into game number 5. Here we are. In the game, as you see, I have 3 islands under control, and now we can see ships here. So there are 2 different ships you can build here. We have a shipyard. You can build trade ships and transport ships. This is a transport ship. You can load your soldiers on the transport ship. I'll move my soldiers here. So there you go. They loaded on the transport ship. Apparently, siege agents can't get on the transport ships. That's why I never built siege agents in this game. You also have trade ships. Trade ships go on autopilot. So you build a type of a harbor building, and you specify the final point for the trade ship. The point is here to drop off some resources. Then you specify which resources should be flowing to this point here, and they flow on auto. The ship will come in, pick up resources, move there, drop them off, and then you can have a whole chain of things going on. Let's say I have resources coming to this island, then they go to this island, and so on. And there, see the ships are sailing around, and actually they're gonna come from this island. Some things go to this island, and so on. So it's back and forward type of that trade occurs. So there we are. I'm just gonna take this guy here and have them sail. As you can see, it's pretty slow to do that. Now here we see different civilization. This is the Asians. There's also Egyptians. I don't think they appear on this map, but they're also there. Now the civilizations here are not 100% reskin. They have pretty much similar buildings, but each civilization has its own. Let's say the Romans have a charcoal maker hat. Since you need a lot of coal, and if you didn't find a lot of coal, this actually comes extremely helpful because that turns wood into coal. Pretty useful, right? Romans also have a winemaking building. Other civilizations have a beer making buildings. They have rice wine making buildings. I think some Amazons make meat. All of them have different supply chains that are required to exist so that you can make those products. So there's certain uniqueness to each civilization. Also, I think they also use the different proportions of resources for construction, for building ships, and so on. So that also creates a certain uniqueness, which is great. But yeah, there's also some problems with regards to, I would say uniqueness, but with the overall with the game. Like I already mentioned a few of them. Now let's talk about other thing that we have. We also have here. I'm gonna try to select him. Yes, there we have priests. So priests get produced from the temples. Here we have a large temple. There's also smaller temples that I can build. I can't build them here, so I'm waiting for the territory to be cleared out, I guess. So you also have those things. The priests have spells. Now, these spells, is my understanding, are unique to different civilizations. Like, I'm not sure if everybody has the same spells, or sorry, not everybody has the same spells. I mean, every civilization has some common spells that all of them share, or I think they do. I think so, but there are also some spells that only certain civilizations share. Like, I have this spell for Romans to convert others into Romans, but I've seen spells such as used by Egyptians where they teleport my units to a different section of the map. So that's that's a different spell they got. So let me show you how the combat looks in this game. Like I mentioned, it's the game claims to be an RTS, and so it has a more of an RTS style of combat. I'm gonna move my soldiers here so that they can land and unload. I got more soldiers coming. At being automatically produced, you can specify actually how many soldiers, how they automatically produced, or you have to manually produce them. I always had automatic. Here we have also promotion system. Promotion system occurs once you get enough divine favor, which involves building temples and supplying them with wine. For Romans or for others, it's a different alcoholic beverage that you need to supply. Eventually, you get enough of that to create to allow you to promote your soldiers. Now, promotion does not mean that your existing soldiers will be upgraded, but that will be the new soldiers that will be constructed will be upgraded quality. So there we are. We got our soldiers. So I'm gonna unload. And the combat is pretty much simple. I just select all of them because there's no way for me to select specifically archers or spearmen. I guess if I zoom in, I can distinguish between them. But playing a real-time strategy game, I don't really like to zoom in. I more prefer to be zoomed out so that I can see more of the map. And then once I have this, I just say right point, click, and off they go attacking the enemy. That's pretty much it for the whole military thing. Now remember I talked about that I don't use much in terms of military buildings. The reason I don't do that is that I have more soldiers. Right, you would only keep usually one maybe building on each island, and that would be sufficient for me. Here it is, the fighting starts. You can see the fighting. At first, the enemy will not respond too much. Here it is, we capture the building, and once I capture the building, I can maximum garrison to the maximum. That will, of course, allow me to have archers on the top of the building where they're safe, because the archers on top of the building cannot be attacked until you kind of go through all the melee weapon guys, and these guys can attack the enemies. And so here it is, we can see blue dots and red dots, meaning which ones are getting killed and so on. And I will send more soldiers here to pick up. And so the combat ends up being, once you trigger and provoke a opponent enough, they'll start fighting back at you, and it pretty much involves a situation where it's your horde of soldiers versus the enemy horde. That's all there is. That's pretty much the whole combat. I would say not very much complicated there. And eventually, if you don't have enough, you get defeated or something like that. Like I captured another building here. So great. You end up kind of getting stuck, and you'll be sitting there and be like, okay, well, now I'm stuck here, so I'll just need to wait for more soldiers to be produced. And you just wait for more soldiers to be produced. Then you get more soldiers, and you rinse and repeat. Now, I did have a bit more of a strategy, especially with areas where I could land soldiers. Let's say I could land them somewhere else, because it looks like the computer AI will go towards a play location that's being attacked with, so that means they'll actually deploy almost all their troops there. And if you attack somewhere else, they'll just go and walk all the way there now. So that's also the kind of strategy. If you control enough buildings in between, in the way that the enemy will actually walk through them and take damage from that. Yeah, so they got that kind of problem. So that's generally, this is pretty much the military section of the game. And this, like I mentioned, there's certain uniqueness to civilizations. Yes, it do spice things up. But what else I have a problem? Well, I've been scrolling around a bit, and like this, right? I've been showing you. One thing I hasn't been doing is scrolling left. Why? Because this is a borderless window, full screen borderless window, and you can't scroll left. If I do that, let's see, I'll show you. My mouse actually leaves. It doesn't scroll. It goes to the second monitor I have because I have two monitors. I'm guessing if you don't have two monitors, you're not gonna experience this problem. But I ended up quite often scrolling with my arrow keys. Another problem. So in terms of problems that I did like, it's the speed of the game. It's the scrolling part that I don't really like. There's also another issue here. You see my soldiers are stuck on this little outcrops. This this kind of islands could cause problems. So if you land your soldiers on them, what will happen is that they'll be unable to really go anywhere, and you can't really pick them up also. The selection is another problem. You know what, to finish my thought on this islands, actually, I should say that this is actually mentioned in the manual. So the developers knew about this was a problem, and they're like, we're just gonna tell the manual to be careful about this, rather than try to fix it or remove them from the map at all completely. But yeah, there you go. That's another problem, right? The other one was, I mentioned already, selection problems. Selecting units is a problem. The game management aspect is, I would say, the biggest, most difficult aspect for management. What I had to think about was always the trade networks. Nothing else really made me think too much about it. I was actually more frustrated because I could not understand why certain things happen without reading the manual. But otherwise, there was no really difficulty in management of the game. Finally, I would like to talk about the colors of the game. The blue of the sea, the green of the trees is very, very vibrant. It just stands out, as jumps at you. Eventually, I think I got getting more or less used to it, but it's still way too vibrant. I don't like this kind of palette. I wish they had made it better. Did not do it. So, in the end, I'm gonna say it's an okay game. The reason I stopped playing it is the biggest reason is that I just got tired of waiting for things to happen. Really got tired of that. I wish there was a faster ability to turn the game around to run much faster, but there is not. So I got tired of waiting on things for things to go, to things to move from one area to another, and that's and given also with all the other problems I mentioned, that's the reason this is an okay game. Now, when it comes to cool rating, I would say it's a cool game. And why I say that is because, well, the concept of the game is that for the Romans, you are chosen by Jupiter to lead Romans to show them to be the best civilization there is. Right? The other civilizations, the Asians and the Egyptians, have their own gods who do the same thing. And so when you play their campaign, it's going to be the same idea. So being chosen by the god and all that kind of sounds pretty cool. To lead and do all kind of stuff. That the whole story is kind of that way down. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I have no problems with that story. But as it is, it's an older game. It's 1998 when it was published. The story is mostly just there to tie into together scenarios. It does not seem to play a role really within the scenarios that much. But the different spells that the priests have kind of also cool, but I don't feel it's really anything beyond just generally being cool. So I would say that this is a cool, okay game. So if you want to try it out, yeah, you can. But I think the classic Settlers experience is considered to be Settlers 2. And this definitely has a lot of departures from Settlers 2. If I were to recommend the Settlers games, so far from all the ones that I played 1, 2, 3, and 2 10th Anniversary Edition, I would say that the Settlers 2 10th Anniversary Edition is where I had the most fun playing. Here, I just was mostly waiting for things to happen. and getting frustrated because I didn't know solutions because the game was not telling me how to solve things. I had to look up in the manual. And that, of course, takes you out of immersion in the game. Alright, anyway, so thank you for watching and for listening. If you like this video, please like it. If you didn't like it, don't like it, and please subscribe.